Hello there. Today we journey back in time to 1914, to the eve of a conflict that would reshape the world. This was a time of great tension and uncertainty, a period when the old world was on the brink of monumental change. Imagine, if you will, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, a vast and diverse realm ruled by the Habsburg dynasty. This empire was a mosaic of cultures, languages and traditions, each contributing to the rich tapestry of its society. At its heart stood Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the throne. He was a man of complex character, both a product of his time and a visionary ahead of it.
I am no ordinary prince. My destiny is intertwined with the fate of this empire. I am a man of vision, determined to reform the empire and secure its future. My dreams are not just for myself, but for the millions who call this empire home. I dream of a more united and federalized state where different ethnicities can live together in harmony. A place where diversity is not just tolerated, but celebrated.
But fate, it seems, had other plans. The road ahead was fraught with peril and unforeseen challenges. Franz Ferdinand's vision for a stronger, more unified empire was met with resistance from both within and outside the Habsburg domain. His ideas were seen as radical, even dangerous, by those who clung to the old ways. His enemies whispered against him in the shadows, threatened by the changes he represented. They saw in him a threat to their power and influence, and they conspired to stop him at any cost. In the city of Sarajevo, a plot was hatched that would change the course of history. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand was not just an attack on a man, but on the very idea of progress and unity. The assassination set off a chain of events that led to the outbreak of World War I, a conflict that would engulf the world and leave an indelible mark on history. The war brought unimaginable devastation and loss, but it also reshaped the world in ways that continue to affect us today. The legacy of Franz Ferdinand's vision and the promise he made to his people lives on in the lessons we draw from history. As we reflect on this chapter of history, let us remember the importance of vision, unity, and the courage to pursue a better future, even in the face of overwhelming odds. To understand the events that unfolded, we must travel southeast to the Balkans, a region simmering with unrest. It was a melting pot of ethnicities and national identities, all vying for independence from the aging empires that held them. The Austro-Hungarian Empire, already grappling with internal tensions, looked upon the volatile Balkans with a wary eye. Nationalist movements threatened to tear the region apart, and rivalries between the great powers, Austria-Hungary, Germany, Russia, France and Britain, added fuel to the fire. The Balkans had become a tinderbox, and it wouldn't take much to ignite a conflagration. In the summer of 1914, Franz Ferdinand embarked on a state visit to Sarajevo, the capital of Bosnia. This province, recently annexed by Austria-Hungary, was a hotbed of Serbian nationalism. The Archduke's visit, intended as a show of strength and unity, was fraught with risk. Warnings of possible assassination attempts reached the ears of officials, but they were tragically ignored.
On a sunny morning, June 28, 1914, my beloved wife Sophie and I arrived in Sarajevo, unaware that we were stepping into a carefully laid trap.
The Archduke's motorcade, decorated with the flags of Austria-Hungary, made its way through the crowded streets of Sarajevo. The city was alive with the hustle and bustle of people, all eager to catch a glimpse of the royal couple. The streets were lined with onlookers, their faces a mix of curiosity and excitement. The atmosphere was tense, a sense of foreboding hanging in the air. Whispers of unrest and discontent had been circulating for weeks, and the presence of the Archduke only heightened the tension. People could feel the weight of history in the making, an uneasy anticipation that something significant was about to unfold. As the cars approached the Appel Quay, a young man emerged from the throng. His movements were deliberate, his eyes fixed on the approaching motorcade. The crowd seemed to part around him, as if sensing the gravity of his intentions.
My name is Nedeljko Kabrinovic, and in my hand I clutch a bomb. The weight of it is heavy, not just in my palm but in my heart. I know what I must do and the consequences it will bring.
He hurled it towards the open car carrying the Archduke and his wife. The moment seemed to stretch into eternity as the bomb sailed through the air, its trajectory uncertain. The bomb bounced off the folded-back convertible roof of the car and exploded under the next vehicle in the motorcade. The sound of the explosion was deafening, a violent rupture that shattered the tense silence of the crowd. The blast injured several bystanders and members of the Archduke's entourage. Gavrilo attempt had failed. The chaos that ensued was immediate, with screams and cries filling the air. People rushed to help the injured, while others stood in shock, unable to comprehend what had just happened. The first attempt on the Archduke's life had been thwarted, but the day was far from over. Shaken but unharmed, Franz Ferdinand insisted on continuing his visit. However, a change in plans, a wrong turn by the driver, would prove fatal. As the motorcade slowly reversed to follow the correct route, a young man named Gavrilo Princip, a member of a Serbian nationalist group called the Black Hand, found himself face to face with the Archduke's car.
Seeing my opportunity, I drew my pistol and fired twice. One bullet struck Sophie in the abdomen, the other fatally wounded Franz Ferdinand in the neck.
Gavrilo Princip, a frail young man driven by a potent mix of nationalism and anger, saw Franz Ferdinand as a symbol of oppression, a representative of the Austro-Hungarian Empire that he believed stood in the way of Serbian unification.
We believed that the assassination of the Archduke would spark a chain of events that would ultimately lead to the liberation of Serbia and the creation of a unified Yugoslav nation.
His act, driven by a fervent, if misguided, belief in his cause, would have far-reaching consequences that he could never have imagined. Section 7. The world reacts with shock. News of the assassination spread like wildfire across Europe, sending shockwaves through the courts and capitals of the great powers. The world held its breath, waiting to see how Austria-Hungary would respond to this shocking act of aggression. The assassination of Franz Ferdinand was not just a personal tragedy, it was a spark that ignited the highly combustible atmosphere in Europe. It was the match thrown onto the tinderbox, setting everything ablaze. Section 8. Ultimatums and declarations. Austria-Hungary, outraged and fueled by grief and anger, blamed Serbia for the assassination and issued a harsh ultimatum. Serbia, backed by Russia, attempted to negotiate but ultimately failed to meet all of Austria-Hungary's demands. On July 28, 1914, Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia, setting in motion a chain reaction of alliances and counter-alliances. Germany, bound by treaty to Austria-Hungary, declared war on Russia and France, Russia's ally. Great Britain, obligated to defend Belgium's neutrality, declared war on Germany when German troops crossed into Belgium on their way to France. Section 9. The Great War begins. And so, in the space of a few short weeks, the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand had plunged Europe into the abyss of World War I. The event, which took place on June 28, 1914 in Sarajevo, set off a chain reaction of alliances and treaties that would drag the entire continent into conflict. The assassination was the spark that ignited the powder keg of Europe, a region already simmering with tensions and rivalries. The lamps were going out all over Europe, and they would not be lit again in our time. This phrase, famously uttered by British Foreign Secretary Sir Edward Grey, captured the sense of foreboding and despair that gripped the continent. As nations mobilized for war, the initial enthusiasm and patriotic fervor quickly gave way to the grim realities of trench warfare, where soldiers faced unimaginable horrors. The Great War, as it was known, was a conflict unlike any other, a global struggle that pitted the Central Powers Germany, Austria-Hungary and the Ottoman Empire against the Allied powers, Great Britain, France, Russia, Italy, and eventually the United States. The war saw unprecedented levels of destruction and loss of life, with battles such as the Somme and Verdun becoming synonymous with the futility and brutality of modern warfare. Leaders on both sides grappled with the immense challenges of coordinating vast armies and managing the home front, where civilians also bore the brunt of the conflict. The world watched in horror as millions of young men marched off to a war that would claim the lives of millions and leave an indelible scar on the 20th century. These soldiers, many of whom were barely out of their teens, faced the grim prospect of fighting in muddy, rat-infested trenches, enduring constant shelling and witnessing the devastating effects of new weapons like poison gas and machine guns. The war also had profound social and political consequences, leading to the collapse of empires, the redrawing of national boundaries and setting the stage for future conflicts. The Great War was a cataclysmic event that reshaped the world in ways that are still felt today. Section 10, a lasting legacy. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand was a pivotal moment in history, a tragic event that set in motion a chain of events leading to unimaginable destruction and loss of life. It serves as a stark reminder of the fragility of peace and the devastating consequences of unchecked nationalism and political instability. The world would never be the same. As we reflect on this event, we are reminded of the importance of diplomacy, understanding, and the pursuit of peaceful solutions to international conflict. We must learn from the mistakes of the past to ensure that such tragedies are never repeated.